When I gave all my excuses to my children about why I couldn't go get my workouts in or eat as healthy as I should be, you know what they said? Sounds like you're a little below the mark right now, Mom. And of course, I immediately wanted to just say, go to your room, but I couldn't because I'm the role model.
On the ledge for peace, honoring our legacy, divisions to cease, through real fair elections, accepting
There is reason to be hopeful in our country today.
In today's political climate, to be in a group like this, it's just amazing.
We want to reduce that polarization, bring people together.
To be part of the solution and turn the tide on the toxicity.
Right now, it's all about showing up with what idea, what thought is the original intentions of our forefathers. As Americans, we should not be entertaining that violence. But it's something that we have learned because men always are contesting. And when men don't win, they get upset. I think it's time that we understand that women are now aboard. Beloved Cheryl will present her gifts to enable us to look at our America in a different way. And she has 4 simple life-changing gifts that come from her heart. So I'm willing to receive her.
So what this is about is that communication and how do we bring that back to our own kitchen table? It's not just the kitchen table. It's whenever people come together, they're stepping into a relationship where they're hearing each other. This whole process with my family that I laid out in these 4 gifts and into a family meeting toolkit was recognized as one of the next best brilliant ideas for humanity. It starts in our own homes with our own families first. When we get that, then it ripples out. Ripples don't flow in, they flow out. If we want to see change out here, it starts with us.
So how do we unwrap the gift of listening? See, there ought to be this time in this space where the person in front of you is just more important than your cell phone. How do we take a step back? How do we honor that person in the moment? How do we say to them, I care about you and I love you more than this? So we're on to the second gift, the gift of respect. So if someone has an idea, you can compliment it, you can build on it, you can ask questions, but what you cannot do is immediately shoot down that duck. And why is that important, especially for our children? Because when we take away their voice, they don't stop believing in us, they stop believing in themselves. The third gift is the gift of awareness, and we unwrap that gift by choosing to live above the mark. When you're above the mark, you have ownership of your life. You take charge and you believe in your power to change. When you're below the mark, you're literally giving that power away to someone or something. We're on to the 4th and final gift, the gift of love. We unwrap the gift of love by choosing to celebrate ourselves and others. When you judge someone, you're not defining them. You're defining yourself as someone who is judgmental. How do we see and celebrate others? We do it by recognizing that they are a reflection of us first. We find our joy, and then we will see the joy in others. So let's disconnect to connect. Let's allow everyone's voice to be heard. Let's live above the mark, and let's choose to celebrate ourselves and others.
Give us an example of how do you teach someone to really listen?
There's a huge difference between hearing and listening. The intention and the thought behind why somebody is saying something. A lot of times we don't ask enough questions. And I'm going to bring this back to the whole election piece right now that we don't have. Nobody's listening to people. They're not really listening.
When we study as a family and really understand the connection we have as being one of the cornerstones or building blocks of a nation, that it adds more value because it makes us responsible for others. And now that goes to the gift of awareness. Many people are not aware that we're a family. So how do you bring them into the awareness and embrace that thought?
I've heard you say even through the listening, we should be asking conversations for clarity. Mm-hmm. We should make sure we're being respectful and getting everything that the person is saying. If I was given this, please forgive me, I would start with love. and go to awareness and respect. And that would make me a good listener.
Thank you. I love that awareness you just brought forward, though. That's a very good point. If you start with the love, then the rest is easier.
Hearing and listening is two different things. I think all of us, when things come in, we can filter it through our own mind. So we're not really listening. We're already thinking of what response or how it works.
We're not present. Most of the time, we have a lot of conversations going on in our mind that moves us someplace else. Make the person aware you have something to say because you care.
What about you, Peter? Do you have anything you want to add in on that?
I'll be watching the news and then my wife is talking to me. I'm hearing, but I'm not really listening. I'm hearing, but I'm not listening.
Jerome does it a lot to me. He'll come right in and I'm busy doing something. And he'll start talking about something and gets upset because I don't understand. You don't ask me, hey, ask me if I'm available. Otherwise, you'll be forcing, and I'm not available, but I'm tolerating.
So I'll just say, like, this was an hour that we carved out, as part of our story, on Sunday nights at 7:00, which is why we put the technology away. It is so easy to get distracted by, and the interesting thing is that everybody thought that was for the kids. It wasn't. It was for the adults.
Yeah.
They were far worse at being able to just, if I might get an important phone call for work, is that phone call more important than your family? And so how do we turn it off just long enough to make sure that the person that we're in front of understands how important they are?
I'd like to pull up also Brother Ted Sweet. His Project 22 is providing phones to those veterans because there's such a high number of suicides.
Between 22 to 23 veterans take their life every day in the United States. One of the things responsible for that uptick in taking one's life was communication. If a person's going to commit suicide, one of the main things they do beforehand, they're usually in solitude. So one of the things I wanted to do to arm my fellow veterans with, the ones that aren't doing so well, is a cell phone, which they can use in an emergency basis, regardless of whether or not they had minutes on it or not. I'm funding it myself. I'm going to 22 cities, and in those 22 cities, I'm going to see about 25 to 30 veterans, and I plan on giving each one of them a cell phone. These are going to be veterans that are homeless. And in that time frame, I'm going to inform them of their right to file VA claims and so forth. And then 12 months later, I want to try to call every single one of those numbers, and I want to see a thumbs up with my fellow veterans.
That's awesome.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
But I've also been in meetings where I didn't hear anybody shoot down their idea. In fact, I didn't even hear them share an idea. So I went to her and I said, did I miss something? Like, I didn't even hear you share something. She goes, oh, I did in my head, and I quacked myself on my idea. I wasn't going to share it. So she said, I'm quacking myself right now because I had this great idea and I wasn't going to share it with the group, because we do it to ourselves as well. We don't share. Absolutely. And because we think we're going to get judged or somebody. I was one time in a family meeting where they were holding their family meeting, and the daughter, who was really quiet the whole meeting, said hardly anything. Towards the end of the meeting, she said something about maybe we could do this, and the dad said that won't work. And I just wanted to take that duck and bop him on the head with it, because it wasn't about whether her idea would work.
Ernest, what are your thoughts on the respect aspect?
Some scientists that argue, they come up with all kind of theories. They have to discuss it with the other colleagues to make sure that, to see if there are any holes in what that's out of respect. But then at the end, even though they disagree, they stop and go for a cup of coffee afterwards.
It's kind of like a whiteboard session where everyone puts their ideas. You don't criticize somebody's idea. You just put it up there and then evaluate it, and you come to a consensus. So at least everyone gets heard, rather than someone put something up and everyone badmouths it. Well, put it up there.
The third gift, it was really the most powerful for us. The gift of awareness and living above the mark. And as long as you're aware, like, I'm not ready to step up and own this yet, at least you can also know that you're not going to be able to actually see a change either. So I think sometimes if we're not ready, that's fine, but there needs to be an awareness that we're not really owning it. 12, 13 years old. What a powerful thing for people to realize that it's within them to actually step up and own and be a part of the solution.
And I was looking at your diagram when you're below the mark, and it is blame, justify, and deny. When someone offends you or you offend, you can't rise if you don't know how to forgive.
Mhm.
Forgiveness to me and going above the mark rides on your ability, for me, joy,
Mhm.
to be able to forgive. And sometimes we are not aware when we've hurt someone. Sometimes we don't know when we're not present by not listening and became offensive or promised to do something and forgot and don't know how to say, forgive me. And our nation does not practice that.
Mhm.
As the brother Ted was speaking, when they go into the service, you've got to be perfect almost. My granddaughter just went in and she's going to be going to Spain soon. I don't want this nation to continue forgetting those individuals, regardless of their nationality. We need to put that down, and we all are Americans.
I want to speak on something called self-awareness. A lot of times you might be prone to anger or some other kind of emotion that's not favorable. And sometimes you got to be able to look in the mirror and control oneself in the moment. And it's a hard thing to do. One of the hardest things to do, harder than going to war, is to forgive somebody who scorned you or spurned you. I think you just got to lead by example. I loved what Cheryl was talking about.
So the last one is the gift of love. I landed on the gifts during a time when I was very ill. The gift of love was learning to celebrate. I felt like it was a really great way to actually tackle even some of the bullying issues, right? Because a lot of times people just don't understand that the beauty in the world comes from the fact we're all different. And I used to say to the kids, if we were all the same, it would be so boring on this planet, right? If you're different, good for you, because you didn't come here to be like everybody else. You came here to be you. You came here to be the best version that you get to be in this lifetime for who you are. And so I wanted to bring that celebration in to celebrating every single aspect of who we are.
We love yourself first. And if we don't do that, well, how are you going to love somebody else and you don't love yourself?
I think the awareness pre-COVID and post-COVID have been profound. So it's not a time issue, it's a priority issue. And if you understood how important it is to have that family connection, so that when you have your 911, you already know how to support each other, how to love each other, how to trust each other.
On the ledge for peace, honoring our legacy, divisions to cease, through real fair elections, accepting